Hello everyone. The story you're about to hear is entitled Memory Eater. It's from the author, HillBilly Creeper. He does have a book coming out soon, so be on the lookout for that. And thank you for listening. Have any of you had a family member who suffered from a mental illness like dementia or Alzheimer's? Or someone who just simply forgot about something and can't remember what it was? Well, what if I told you it wasn't due to a mental illness or lack of memory? What if I told you it was something not of this world, something more sinister? People are losing their memories because of a creature called the Memory Eater. The Memory Eater is a monster from another universe that feeds on the thoughts of innocent people, sometimes killing them in the process. How do I know this, you might ask? It's because I saw the damn thing. It happened years ago when I was a younger man working in a nursing home. My job was to take care of dementia and Alzheimer's patients. To me, it was a very simple job. All I had to do was make sure they were comfortable, make sure none of them wandered off from the home, and make sure nothing startled them. So one night, when it was my shift again, I was sitting there enjoying a warm cup of coffee, when I heard screams coming from one of our residents here. It was Miss Gertrude. I ran to her quarters to see what was the matter, and when I got there, she was lying unconscious on the floor. I went to help her, making sure she didn't hurt herself. I got behind her to lift her back up on her bed, and that's when I saw something. She had blood dripping from her head. At first, I thought she had hit it on her nightstand, but on further examination I saw marks on her head. It appeared to be bite marks of some kind. I thought this was strange, so I tried asking her what had happened, and she looked at me with a serious face and asked me who I was. I was shocked to hear this because I've been working over here for 3 years, and Gertrude has been like a grandmother to me. I shrugged it off and took it as some type of amnesia, until weeks, even months went by, and she still didn't remember me. Even her own children and grandchildren had become a faded memory. You're probably thinking, well, amnesia and dementia hits a person all of a sudden, which I would be inclined to agree with you, but it didn't stop with Gertrude. It started to spread like a plague all over the nursing home. Every last senior citizen began to lose memories, the ones they talked about just yesterday. Now they can't even remember what they had for breakfast. The staff and the doctors tried everything they could to find out what was going on. How could this be happening? But we never came to a conclusion. Normally, everything was fine. I would sit there, taking sips of my coffee and watching something on my iPhone. This particular night, however, something caught my eye. I only caught a glimpse of it at first, so I got up to investigate. I went looking around each hallway trying to figure out what I saw and not chalk it up to an illusion. That's when I heard it. A nasty slurping noise coming from one of our tenants' quarters, so I crept in quietly, trying not to surprise whatever the fuck it was. Right there, on one of our seniors' chest, was a creature with glowing yellow gold eyes, greenish skin, and a large gaping mouth with a tongue hanging out. However, this creature's tongue was anything but ordinary. It looked like a hose, with teeth coming out of it. It started to feed off the poor senior, sucking out its brain. It looked like it was sucking out of a juice box. When I got closer to the thing, it saw me and retracted its tongue back into its gaping void of a mouth. It stared at me for what seemed like an eternity, but was only a few moments. Those were the longest minutes of my life, having to stare at this thing, hoping that it didn't lunge at me. Instead, it winked at me. I also swear I saw this thing smile. Then it ran off back into the darkness where it came from. After that, I snapped back into reality and rushed to the poor man's body, trying to wake him up. But sadly, I was too late. He had died due to this thing. I know it was the cause of every senior in here losing their memories, because it kept on happening over and over again. The more it happened, the more frequently I stumbled across the creature. So I gave my 2 weeks' notice and left that place because I did not want anything to do with that monster and what it was doing. It wasn't even months later when I come across the thing again. I got a call from the hospital telling me my grandmother was very sick and needed someone to be there. So since I'm the only one left in my family, due to my mother and father dying, I was the only candidate to take care of my grandmother's financial problems. I rushed to the hospital to stay by her side in her last moments. As I got there, she was laying in the hospital bed real weak and looked sick. When I got close to her bedside, she looked at me as if she didn't know me. My stomach dropped when she cleared her throat and asked me who I was. When I heard this escape from her lips, all I thought about was that monster, and that was taking the thoughts and memories from people. I kept trying to make my grandmother remember her own grandson, but I had no luck. I stayed with her anyway that night. As I slept, dreams of running into that creature still coursed through my mind. All of a sudden, I was awakened by a noise, thinking it was one of the nurses coming to check on my grandmother. But I was wrong. Instead of a nurse, I was greeted by that damn thing again. It was feeding on my grandmother. Fits of rage overtook me, and I grabbed the thing from my grandmother's chest. I ripped its tongue from its skull, fighting with it. This thing tried to sink its tongue into me when I grabbed it with one hand and squeezed it tight. It let out a horrible shriek of pain unlike anything I have ever heard before. So as I had it by its tongue, causing it extreme pain, I started twirling the damn thing in circles, slinging it out the window, which of course shattered the glass. Once this thing happened, alarms started going off, and hospital staff and security rushed into the room. They saw me covered in blood and glass. One of the security staff asked me what happened here. So I made up a lie and told them that someone came into my grandmother's room and tried to rob us, so I fought them off and tossed them out the window. That was the only thing I could think of, because I sure as hell wasn't going to tell them that I fought off some mind-sucking monster off my grandmother. They would have locked me away if I told them the truth. That's when head of security ordered the others to look around the hospital grounds and see if they could find any trace of the thief or the body due to my grandmother being on the second floor. As they looked around the grounds, they couldn't find anything. They definitely didn't find a body, so I wasn't charged for murder or anything like that. That was the last time that I saw that creature. A few years later, my grandmother passed. She had a beautiful funeral. I settled down with a beautiful woman and had a couple of kids, who in turn gave my wife and I a few grandchildren. I had a few jobs after that, but now I'm retired, living in a retirement home with my beloved wife. I know what you're probably thinking. Why would I be in a retirement home after all that happened years ago? Well, what if I told you I was preparing for that damn thing to show up? So far, nothing happened, but I am concerned, though. Just the other day, my wife of 20 years always remembered where her purse is, but now she's beginning to forget. It doesn't stop there, though. She's slowly starting to forget bigger things like our anniversary, which she always looked forward to, and our children and our grandchildren. Eventually, she forgot me, her husband of 20 years. I know it was that monster again meddling in my life, fucking with my beloved. So one night I kept watch as I waited for that creature to show up. Doing this night after night finally paid off. I saw the thing creeping into others' rooms, so I followed it. As it was feeding, I snuck up on it and grabbed it once more, exactly like I did all those years ago, but this time I was ready for it. I pulled out a sharp utensil out of my pocket that I snuck out of the cafeteria and plunged it into that fucking thing. It let out a horrible shrieking scream. I kept on stabbing it over and over and over again, making sure the fucking monster stayed dead. When it was finally over and I had won the fight, the creature's body was still. I disposed of it, cutting it up into little bits in my room. The next day, when no one was looking, I buried it out in the garden of the home. Finally, my mind was at ease, and I got my revenge for all these years. I was able to rest easy. A month after that, my wife passed away due to complications of heart failure. So now I'm all alone, but able to sleep in peace knowing that no one has to suffer. That is until I woke up one night, and over my bed, I saw two glowing, yellowish gold eyes peering through the darkness, right at me.